Okay, let's begin. We're in 6B at the bottom. Um, 6B at the bottom. Um, Amar Rav. One, two. Yeah, second line from the bottom, right in the middle. Um, um, Okay, Amarav, halach Rabbi Shua ben Karcha. We rule like Rabbi Shua ben Karcha that says that compromise is a good thing. That the judge should promote compromise. Any Gemara says that's of Amarav Huna Talmidei Derav Hava ki hava asu lekame Rav Huna. Um, when Rav Huna was a student of Rav and people came to Rav Huna, Amrul, said to them, Idina bisu, Ibshar bisu. Well, what do you want to do? Do you want a judgment or do you want arbitration? Do you want a compromise? Um, so um, if Rav believes if Rav believes that compromise is a mitzvah, then why does his student Rav Huna leave it up to the litigants? So Gemara says, "My mitzvah nami t'kam Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha." What does Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha mean by mitzvah? Mitzvah l'meimro. It's not that it's a mitzvah that it's a good thing to impose a compromise. It's a good thing to offer a compromise. To say idina b'isu ipshar b'isu. It's a good thing. Well, the good thing is not to look, A claims that B owes him $100. The mitzvah is not to rule, okay, give him 50 and everybody's happy. That's not a compromise. That's not the kind of compromise we're talking about. The kind of compromise is, look, A and B, you guys work it out, figure out some kind of, you each seem to have a valid claim, come to some kind of agreement. That's the mitzvah that he's talking about. That's the good part of it. So Hainu Tanakama, the Gemara says, well, isn't that what the Tanakama says, right? It's the offering of compromise that's the mitzvah, then that's the the um so so he would agree that forcing a compromise or imposing a compromise is not good. That's the same as the Tanakama. So how are they different? You can be a mitzvah. So the question is whether it's a good thing to do. Rabbi Shua ben Karcha savar mitzvah. Rabbi Shua ben Karcha says that offering the compromise is good. Tanakama savar rishus, and the Tanakama says you can do it if you want. It's not that it's a positive value; it's that it's an option. So I need Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh, but isn't that the view of Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh, right? According to this way of looking at the Tanakhama, that it's then the Tanakhama would say that it's an option to offer compromise. That's Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh who said that. So how are they different? Misha Tishma Divrayan. The difference is once you've heard the claims, and you understand this is the way the case is going to come out. Yes, Harishai lower Hansu Bitu. Then you can't offer them that option anymore. But the Tanakhama says that yeah, you can until the verdict is pronounced. You can still offer them. You can still encourage them to find a compromise. Okay. Now we said before we quoted a pasuk Botzei Berech Nietz Hashem, that one who blesses or who praises um, a botseya, which we understood to mean compromiser, is actually denying God or cursing God. Uplika Rabbi Tanchum bar Chanilai, but that's a different interpretation than Rav Tanchum. The Rav Tanchum bar Chanilai, he said, "Lo never mikrozel connected masego." You know what that verse is talking about? Botseya berech niyetz Hashem. It's not talking about compromising. Excuse me. It's talking about the egel hazav, the golden calf. Shemar, how so? Because it says there, Aaron Aaron saw what was going on, and he built the altar before the golden calf. Mara. So what did he see? Aaron saw. What did he see? Rabbi Yamin says, Ra Chur shezavuach lefanav. He saw that they had killed his brother-in-law Chur. Chur was one of the inner circle of Moshe Rabbeinu. He had married Miriam, if I remember correctly, and he had been killed. Um, Omri said, Elosham, and presumably because he opposed the building of the golden calf. Amar, so Aaron said to himself, Elosham Anlu Ashdaf, I don't listen to him
Wasn't that
now. Oh,
Miriam's son? Wasn't that Aaron's nephew? I think
yes,
Achor
you're
was
right. Thank you.
Miriam's
Thank you. That's
son.
right. Yes, not brother. Yes, right. Um, so anyway, so he says, Amri lo shaman luhasha. If I don't listen to them, they're going to kill me too. Umukayim be, and so that will that will be a fulfillment of the verse, which is later on in Navi. Imi hareg v'mikdash Hashem kohen v'navi. Um, Referring to like the worst thing that could happen is that in the Mikdash, in the temple, um, God's temple, a priest and a prophet will be killed. Well, the prophet was Hur, has already been killed, and if I get killed too, v'lo yohavelihu takanto liolam, and nothing can is going to be able to fix that. The people will be completely lost if they commit this double murder. Mutav dulav dulego. It's better if they commit the sin of the avodah zarah of the golden calf. After avilu takanto b'tshuva, maybe they'll be able to repent. Right? Nobody gets hurt. You can always do tshuva for that. So that's what. So that's the that is what we're referring to. What the pasuk refers to, Bosea Berech Nietz Hashem, right? That he's he's looking for some kind of a compromise, or he's compromising basically his standards, and but ultimately it's to the Nietz Hashem. It's a slap in the face of God by building this golden calf. Now we also had another pasuk, Poter Mayim, right, which was used to Poter Mayim Reshis Madon, releasing water is the beginning of argument, of strife. Um, that's how it was interpreted before. That like don't allow arguments to break out. But the other time, how did they explain it? Rav Amnuna, Diamar Rav Amnuna, Ein Chilas Dino Shel Adam Nidon Ella Al Divrei Torah. The first principle of how a person is judged in the world to come is on Torah. Shnamar Poter Mayim Reshis Madon. Releasing water is the beginning of judgment, and water is a well-known metaphor for Torah. So releasing the Torah, that's the beginning of like having the Torah flow. That's the beginning of your judgment. Another explanation. Hai tigra demaya litsinara debidka demaya. Um, this argument is, having arguments is like a channel of water, from that is from a river. Kevin de Ravach Ravach. Once the river has broken its banks, it's just the breach is just going to get bigger. Um, if you've ever seen any, movie about farmers battling the flood of the river, you know what I mean. Like once there's a breach in the sandbags, it just gets worse and worse. Um, Abaye Kashishamar, old Abaye said, Dame Laguda de Gamla. You know what argument is like? It's like a beam in a bridge. Kevin de come. Once it becomes settled in, like at the beginning, I think the idea is at the beginning when something is constructed, it might rattle a little bit until it kind of settles into its place, and then it becomes firmly established. So once you start an argument, you really get into it, you can't get out of it. It just becomes part of the environment, and it's even much harder to break once it has been established. Now we're going to come to a series of sayings triggered by this verse, Poter Mayim. Hodava Kamarvazil, there was this guy who went around saying, Tuve Deshama Va'adish. It's happy as a person who hears his own, hears something about himself, something negative about himself, and he's quiet. Chalfua Bishta Mea. Um, by being by being silent, um, a there would have been, like, by getting involved in the argument, he would have triggered a hundred bad things, 100 misfortunes, by not responding to the criticism of himself. He's escaping, all the unpleasantness of discord. Normally, Shmuel Rav Yehuda Kruxiv. It's a pasuk. Poter Mayim Rishis Madan. Releasing water is the beginning of strife, which tells you Reish Mea Dine. Um, Madon, he's explaining as Mea Din, right? 100 judgments or 100 um, decrees. Okay. How the other the Hava Kamar Vasil, there was this guy that went around saying, Atarte Tzlat Ganava Lo Miktel. For two or three incidents of theft, you don't get killed. Um, Meaning um, like don't be surprised if you do a couple of you pull a couple of robberies and you don't get caught. If you keep on going that way, eventually you are going to get caught. I'm only Shmuel reviewed Kruxiv. Shmuel said that's reflected in the verse. On the three or four sins of Israel, I will not. Al Shloshah Pishay Israel, on the three sins of Israel, I won't respond. But on the fourth one, I'm not going to refrain from punishment. How do you overcome the Havaka Amar Vazil? There's a guy that went around saying, Shave Beire L'Shalmana. Shav Beire L'Shalmani. If seven pits are dug in the way of a peaceful person, then he can be saved from them. V'chadal Avid Bish. But one pit in front of of someone who is a bad person, who has evil deeds, he'll fall into it. He'll be entrapped in it. I'm only Shmuel Rabbi Yehuda. Shmuel said to Yehuda, Kruxiv, it's a pasuk, Kishava yipol tzadik v'kam. Tzadik will fall seven times and get up. V'rasha yipol b'yachas. But a wicked person will uh, he'll just fall the first time and never get up. How the other Hava Kamar Be'azil, the guy went around saying the Azil Beidina Shakal Glima, one who leaves the court and left his coat there. In other words, his coat was confiscated for his as payment for whatever he was been ruled against. Lismar Zemer Velezel Baruch. I should be happy and go on your way. Like be happy about it. I'm only we saw this before. The idea that you're doing somebody a favor by ruling against him because then doesn't have uh, um, he doesn't have improperly acquired goods. He's been his attempt at keeping something that's not his has been thwarted by the court, so he should be happy about it. And we Shmuel said, "Kraksiv, it's a pasuk. V'gam kol hamazel mechamei abba b'shalom." Yitro said to Moshe, like, if you implement this system of justice that I'm suggesting, then everybody will go away happy. What does it mean everybody will go away happy? What about the people who lost their case, right? So it tells you that even the losers are actually winners because justice is done. How the Hava Kamar Basil, there was a guy who ran around saying, He Naima Vidikula Shafil. A woman, she's asleep, and the basket on her head is, she nods off, and the basket on her head falls down. Amarle, in other words, if you're lazy, then if you're not paying attention to your work, or you're not diligent in your work, then the product will be poor. Shmuel said it's a pasuk Vatsaltayim Yimacham Kara. This is at the end of Koheles. Vatsaltayim with laziness, Yimacham Kara. The ceiling will sag. Howda Hava Kamar Vazil. There was a guy running on saying Gavra der Chitznale Adye Ligzize V'kam. The This man who I trusted, he stood against me. Amalei Shmuel Yehuda said, "Kraksiv is a pasuk gam ishlomi asher batachti bo." Even my ishlomi, even my partner, my ally, who I trusted, will attack me. There was a guy who went around saying, Kirachimtun Hava Aziza. when our love was strong between presumably himself and his wife, Putya de Safsera Shechivan. We could lie together on something that's as narrow as the sharp edge of a sword. Hashta the law is now that we're no longer in love. Purya bar shitin garmide lo sagilan. We could have a huge bed, 60 amos wide. It's not big enough for the two of us. Amar Ravina Karaksive. This is a pasuk Meikarksi. First it says, God says about the Mishkan that I will speak to you from the above the cover of the ark. Vitanya, and how big was that? Brisa says, Aron Tisha v'Kaparos Tefach. The ark was 9 tefachim high, and then the covering was a tefach thick, so that's 10 tefachim. Arkan Asara. Uksiv. The temple that Shlomo built was 60 amma long and 20 wide, Ushoshim amma kamaso, and 30 high. So um, so there was a limited, the Mishkan was a very small space for the Shekhinah. Shlomo built a bigger one. Basof, in the end, Ksiv, Komar Shem Hashamayim Kisiv Aretz Hadam Raglai. God says, I've the heavens are my throne and the earth is my footstool. What kind of house are you going to be built for me? So, in other words, once the people sinned, and this is the metaphor for love lost between the people and God. Even the temple isn't big enough for God and the people to be together. Okay, going back to psukim that the Fortanim used in advancing their ideas about pshara, about compromise. One was lo tagur mipnei ish. This was a different thing. It was like don't hold back your opinion before your teacher, right? If you and your teacher are on a court, you have a responsibility not to defer to him, but to give your own opinion. So my mashma lo taguru lishan kanoshihu. What makes you think that lo taguru means like to hold something in, hold in your opinion? Amar kra v'yayin lo tishav lo tagar. Amar yayin lo tishav lo tagar. In the curse of in the curse in the Torah, it's like you're not none of your work will be productive. You won't drink wine, and you won't even be able to gather in wine. And so gather in lo ta'agar, the same root is gathering things in, harvesting things, gathering things in. So here it means holding in your opinion. Ravacha bar Yaakov Amar Mehacha. Ravacha has a different source. Tachin bakais lachma agra bakasir machala. This is the ant. That it prepares food in the summer and gathers food in the harvest time. So agar is again used for collecting something, holding something in. Ikamar oger bakayitz ben maskil. A wise person, a wise son is one who gathers things in the summer. Again, oger is used to mean gathering things in. Any judge that judges truly, Mashra Shechina b'Yisrael, he causes the Shechina, the divine presence, to rest among the people. Shneimar Elohim nitzav b'Asel b'kerav Elohim yishvat. God stands in the assembly of God, and among the judges he will rule. And if you don't judge correctly, Gorim l'shenishitistalik Yisrael, you cause the Shechina to leave. Shenemar mishod aniyim me'en kasav yonim atah kum yamar Hashem. God says, I'm going to leave. I'm going to get up from the oppression of poor and the cries of the destitute. So this is understood to be a metaphor of God leaving a place where there is no justice for the poor. He also said, a judge that confiscates improperly from one and gives to another, God will take from him his soul. Torah says, do not rob the poor because he's poor. And don't oppress the poor person in the gates. Uh, Ki Hashem yariv rivam v'kavas kovehem nefesh, because God will fight their fight and rob the life of those who rob them. So, in other words, the judge is the one who's robbing from the poor. So God will take his life. V'amar Shmuel Menachem Rabbi Yonasan, he also said, "Yolam Yeradayan Atzmo Ki'ilu Cherem Nachos Lo Ben Yarchosov." A judge should think about himself as if he's got a sword between his thighs. The Gehenna and Pesucha Lo Mitachtav, and hell is waiting for him below. In other words, y'all should be very, very concerned, very nervous about making a wrong move as a judge. Shenamar, Hinemi Tasa Shel Shlomo Shishim Gibarim Savrim Lamin Gibari Yisrael. Shir Hashirim. I think Shir Hashirim, the bed of Shlomo has 60 strong men around it from the strong men of Israel. Kulam They're all holding swords and skilled in war, and each one has his sword on his lap. Mipachad baleos, from because of the fear of the night. So, who are these gibarim? We understand to be gibarim, heroes of Torah, like Torah scholars. And what is the fear of night? Mipachad shel gehenim shadon l'layla. The fear is really the fear of hell. That they're all Torah scholars, but they're all always considering themselves on the gate of making a mistake and being condemned. Darash Rabbi Yoshi v'Tema Rabbi Nachman Yitzchak. Rabbi Yoshi said, "My dechsiv based David Kol Amar Hashem Dinu Laboker Mishpat Vatzilu Gazel Miyad Oshek." This is a pasuk that says, "The house of David." So says God. Judge in the morning, justice and rescue those who are robbed from those who are oppressing them. Why does it say in the morning, right? You can judge all day. If something is clear as morning to you, then you should say it. In love, and if you're not sure, then don't make your verdict that way. Rabbi Chia bar Abba, Rabbi Yonasan, Rabbi Chia said, "Emar la chachma chosiyad." Pasuk says, "Say to wisdom, you're my sister." What does that mean? If something is so clear to you, it's as clear as knowing that your sister is forbidden to you. Then Amreu, then you should say it. But if you're not that sure, then better to keep quiet and don't judge. Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Asar Sheyoshvim Badin, if there are 10 people in on a court, Kolar Tavid Savar Kulan. The chain is around each one of them. In other words, don't think that, oh, there's 9 other judges, so I don't have to be so careful with my judgment. I'm only one voter, then what does it matter what I vote? No, you have the responsibility just like anybody else. Pshita, Sigmar says, is obvious. Like, since they're all on the court, they all have responsibility. Well, no, we're talking about a student who's on the court with his teacher. So this goes back to the idea that don't hold back. If you're on the court, you have the responsibility, and you can't defer even to your teacher. Ravuna Kiava Asay Dino Lakame, when Ravuna had a case to judge, Michnaf Umaise Asar Rabbanim Rav. He would bring 10 students from the base medrash. Amar, and he would say, Kiheche de Limtian Shiba Mikishura. That way, each one of them takes a piece of the responsibility. You take one, each one of them has a chip from the whole board. From the whole, branch. So, if we make a mistake, at least I'm not 100% responsible. I'm only partly responsible. Ravashi ki hava asi tereif telekame, and Ravashi, when he had to determine if something was kosher or treif, machnifu maisilahu lechulu tabachi demasa machase. He would bring all the butchers together to examine it of the city. Amar, he said, Kiechi de Lumatian Shiba Mikishur. Same thing. I don't want to take all the responsibility. I'm going to, share the responsibility for this decision with other people. Kielsa Rav Dime, when he came from Eretz Yisrael, he said, Darash Rav Nachman Bar Kohen. Rav Nachman said, My dechsiv, Melech b'mishpat yamid aretz v'ish terumos yeher sena. A king, is the supporter of the world with justice, but Ish terumos yeharsena, a person with gifts can destroy it. What does that mean? If a judge is like a king who doesn't need anything, he's got everything he needs, Yamidaretz, then he's going to be able to support the whole world. But if he's needy and he has things that he needs, like a Kohen who's looking for truma on the threshing floors, that he's subject to perverting justice. Dvenesia okmudaina delo havagamir. The Nasi, or in the court of the Nasi, they appointed a judge who wasn't qualified. Amarle, Yehuda bar Nachmani miturgamene l'Reish Lakish. So the Nasi said to Yehuda bar Nachmani, who was the translator, or the loudspeaker of Reish Lakish, Kumale ba'amora. You be the spokesperson for him, for this unqualified judge. Kam gachin alei. So Yehuda Rachmani stood up and he bent over the judge. V'lamar loy v'lo but he didn't say anything to him. Pasach v'yamar Yehuda. So the way it works is the teacher teaches something and the guy with the loud voice broadcasts it to the audience, right? So he's listening, but the judge didn't say anything for him to broadcast. Pasach v'yamar. So Yehuda Rachmani starts out anyway. Hi, Omer la'etz hakitza uri la'evan dumam. Woe to the person who says to the wood, "Wake up," and to a stone, to a stone, he says, "Wake up." Hu yara hinehu tafus zahav v'chasef v'chol ruach ein b'kirbo. Can he teach? It's got gold and silver all over it, but there's nothing inside it. No spirit inside. And God will punish those who appoint these unqualified judges. So in other words, he's saying, this guy's got nothing to say. He got appointed as a judge improperly. He's got nothing to say for me to broadcast. So I'm broadcasting that he's no good. As it says, God in His holy temple, everybody will be silent before Him. Amrish Lakish. Kalamami Dayan al Tzibur Sheino Hagun. If anyone who appoints a judge who is unqualified, Kilu Notea Asher B'Yisrael. It's like planting an Asherah, a tree that was worshipped as Avodah Zarah. Shenemar Shostim v'Shotrim Titen Lecha. First, the pasuk says you should appoint judges and police. And then the next thing it says is Losita Lecha Asherah Kol. Don't plant an Asherah. So there's a connection there. It's like if one thing is just as bad as the other. Amar Vashi, and even worse, if you appoint someone who's unqualified where there are qualified people, where there are Talmidei Chachamim around. It's not only like planting an Asherah, it's like planting an Asherah next to the altar. The end of that verse is don't plant an Asherah next to the altar of God. It says in the Torah, don't make together with me or alongside me gods of silver and gold. So why does it say gods of silver and gold? What about if they're made of wood? That you can do. No, you can't do that either. So why does it say silver and gold? Amar Avashi. We're talking about judges who are appointed through silver and gold. That's who you shouldn't. It's referring to not appointing, judges who bribe their way in and who aren't qualified. Rav Kiava when Rav came to court, he would say, "Birus nafshe liktala nafik." This guy is going to his death. Like if I'm going to pass a death sentence, no. He's referring to himself. It's like I'm willingly going into a place where I'm risking my life, right? By performing the duties of a judge, you're really as if taking your life into your hands. Like you're this is all very important and consequential stuff. Utzvibe say lesu avid. And not only that, but while I'm in the court, not only am I risking my life, as it were, but I'm not even doing what I should be doing at home. And I'm going to come back home empty-handed. Right? I'm not getting I'm not getting paid for this. Ulavai shetei bia ki yitzia. I just hope that I'm going to return home as virtuous as when I left. So in other words, I hope I don't make a mistake when I'm judging in the court. Kihava chaze ambuhe desafre abasre. When Rav would see a crowd of sofrim of Talmud of Torah scholars following him, Amar, he said, Im yalo l'shamayim sio b'kegelelo lanetzach yoved. If his stature rises to the heavens, he will die forever, like his galal, like his waist. In other words, I shouldn't be too impressed with myself that all these people are following me around to give me honor. I could still mess up and become a sinner. Marzutra Hasida Kihavam Bechatfe Le Beshabta Derigla. When Marzutra would be carried around on people's shoulders on Shabbos Chol Hamoed, Amar Hachi, he would say, Kiloli Olam Chosen Vim Nezer Ladar Vadar. Riches don't last forever, and a crown uh, um, does a crown last from generation to generation? In other words, he's like, I shouldn't get too full of myself just because everybody is idolizing me. Darish Bar Kapara. Bar Kapara taught me not Hamilsad Yom Rabbanan. Where do we get this idea that the rabbis taught? Havu Masunim Adim, be deliberate or patient in judgment. Lo Taleb Malo Sal Mizbechi. Don't walk up the Mizbeach on steps. You should use a ramp, meaning. Um, don't run up the steps. You need to have a ramp where you go more slowly. The Samich Lev Ela Mishpatim, and the next verse is these are the laws that you should give the people. So, in other words, it's like telling a judge elliptically to go slowly, right? Don't rush to judgment, but be deliberate and thoughtful. Amar
The end of that
Balas
pasuk is the end of that pasuk is Altera. What's it?
Asher lo tigaleh rasmalav.
Aleha, right? So that's
Mm-hmm.
the Meforshim darshan that one should be covered. If you run up too quickly, you'll be exposed.
You
Your
expose
body will be
yourself.
exposed. So it's a
Yeah,
little
you could say the same thing
darshan,
metaphorically about judges, right? If you
right?
judge too hastily, you'll be exposed as not so wise. Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah. Amar Balasar, Minayin l'dayan shelo yifsal rashi am kodesh. Where do you get the idea that a judge shouldn't step over the heads of the holy people? I'm not sure exactly what that means, but like. Uh, don't make it look like you're walking over people. sh- I, the Art Scroll interpretation here is, and I think it's from Rashi. Yeah, if everybody's sitting on the floor and you're walking, it kind of looks like from afar like you're walking over them. Shenamar lo taleb b'malos. V'samich le've'elo mishpatim. Don't walk up steps. And the next verse is these are the laws. Um, that one's not so clear to me, but all right. Asher Tasim. So we mentioned Elam Mishpatim Asher Tasim Lifnehem. These are the laws which you shall place before the people. Asher Tlamdemi Ba'ilai. You don't place things, you teach things, right? Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah Vitem Rabbi Chibar Abba. Elu Klei Hadayanim. These are the tools of the judges. Like I don't know, their gavel or their pens. These are things that are placed before the judges. Ravuna Keva Nafik Ladina Amar Hachi. Ravuna, when he went to judge, he would say, Apikuli Mane Chanusai, bring me the tools of my trade. Makal, Rutsua, Veshofra, Vesandala, my stick, my strap, my horn, and my sandal. So these are all things that would be used in the course of judging. Okay. So, I mean, I'm not sure what it's telling us. So the Torah is telling us um, that that a judge should have these tools. Maybe. Um, Similarly, we have Vatzaves Shoftechem Bo'esahi. Moshe in recounting how the justice system was set up. He says, I commanded your judges at that time, Amar B'Yochanan, Keneged Makol Ursua Tehezaris. That tells you that about having these tools, the stick and the strap in the court. You should be quick about it, like you should be meticulous about it, because I think from the word vatsaveh is like, make sure you do this.
Well, Rashi gives some explanation. He says, what's the makel? It said lemakat mardut
Yeah, yeah,
ad and the shofar lishmata v'nidui
yeah, yeah.
v'sanda
These are
the chalitza. So Rashi explains the reason of these tools.
right. Okay, very good. Yes, I aligned over that. Yes, I assumed that was the case. But yeah, you're right. These are the tools of the trade for a judge because they're used in the court. Shemo ben achichem l'shvat tem tzedek. The Torah continues when Moshe commanded how the justice system would work. It was, listen between your brothers, or hear out your brothers, and judge them justly. Amar Rabbi Chanina, Azhar lebeis shel yishma divrei baldin kodem shiavo baldin chavero. When it says Shamoah bein achechem, listen among your brothers, they both the litigants have to be there. You can't hear the claim of one without the other being present. V'yasar levaldin shel yatim devar v'ladayan, and also Baldin Chavero, and it also is warning the litigants that they shouldn't start to address the judge about the case until the other litigant is present. Kri beiname shamea ben achechem, because you can also read it not shamoa, not listen to among your brothers, which would be addressed to the judge, but shamea ben achechem, you can read it as make yourself heard when you're together with your brother, right? So it's also directed at the litigant, saying you can't even start your claim until the other litigant is there. Rav Kana says mehacha. The same idea comes from a different place. Lo tisa, lo tasi. You can say lo tisa shema shav. You can't accept a false report. That's directed at the judge, but you can read it lo tasi. You shouldn't advance a false report directed at the litigant. Ushvatem tzedek. It says you should judge righteously in that pasuk. Amar Reish Lakish tzadek sadin v'acharkach chodcheu. First, determine that your judgment is right, and then you can chodcheu is like the finalize the judgment.
I think
Um,
Rashi learns this. When you said Shemaya, Rashi seems to learn it as Shama. Shama devarecha bein achechem kishetiyu shnechem yachad mamashma.
yeah.
Instead of you were saying Shemaya, make yourself heard, and Rashi seems to say that each person's words should be heard in Shema instead of Shemaya.
Yeah, but what the Gemara is saying is like first it says the way it's written in the with the way we punctuate it is shamoa, meaning it's a it is an instruction to the judge who is listening. You be the one who listens, but make sure it's bein achechem when they're both there, right? But you can also read it as shema or shamea, like to make it sound like the instruction is to the person who's making himself heard. So just a question of the way you can punctuate it differently to interpret it as an instruction to the judge who's listening or to the litigant who is making himself heard. But in either case, it's bein achechem. It's like it has to be when you're both there, when both litigants are there. Next pasuk bein ishu bein achiv. So the whole pasuk is shamoa bein achechem v'shvatem tzedek. Judge righteously bein ishu bein achiv uven gero, between a man and his brother and a stranger. Amar Yehuda afilu bein bayis la'aliyah. Um, you should the judge. Should even know how to assign value to like the first story and the second story of a house. So Rashi explains, if you have two brothers who have a house, inherited a house, then don't just say you get the upstairs and you get the downstairs. No, you have to understand the value of one or the other and make sure it comes out even. One might have to
Yerusha,
buy out the other partially.
the issue of Yerusha, right? That's what Rashi is. Naflalem
Yes.
bayit Yerusha.
Yeah. Uvein Gero, what does the stranger have to do with this? Benisha Uvein Achiv Uvein Gero, between the man and his brother and the ger. What is the ger doing here? Amar Yehuda Afilu Ben Tanur Le Kiraim. You even have to know how to how to distinguish between an oven and a stove. Um, so ger is not a stranger here, but gero is like the place where you live. And the household objects, you have to be able to assign the proper value in case of a dispute. Um, okay, let's stop here for today, and David will pick it up here tomorrow.
In the Yerushalmi Yomi, we are actually doing Masechta Shabbat with the sugya of the Kira and the sugya of the Tanur, and how
All
different
right.
it is.
How about
So
that?
it's
Okay.
timely ending.
All right. Have a good day, everybody.